welcome to today's Halloween episode, brought to you in TerraVision. Patent pending. Today we're going to look at all the steps you need to take ahead of your book launch to get maximum results during launch week. And some of the things we're going to talk about today have more than doubled results during a launch. And they're simple things that you can start putting into place right now and see the difference. So let's get started. So we've got a friend visiting and she's come round in this slightly ridiculous car, which is quite funny because it's like the loudest car in the world, and we live in like Sleepyville, England, and everyone's giving her very strange looks. Anyway, let's go. Right, so we're talking about 5 things you can do before your book launch to get maximum results. And today we're going to try find somewhere to settle the camera down, do some filming. And I've also brought the backup camera, which is the iPhone. And I tested this out a couple of weeks ago. The video is pretty good, but the sound was terrible. So this time round, I've attached a dead squirrel to it. And we'll see if that makes any difference. So yeah, it's pretty windy today and very bright, which means it's awful for filming anything. So what I've done is I've brought the big camera hiding there. And I'm going to use the iPhone with the big squirrel attached for any shots where I can't get the big camera to work. And this is definitely one of the fun things about trying to shoot videos is if you want to get the quality right, you've got to have, well, some of the gear, but then you carry the gear around and you look like a bit of a tool. So iPhone's quite helpful, and we'll see how we get on. But I want to talk about book launch strategies. In particular, 5 things to do ahead of your launch that can more than double your results. And these are all things that you can start doing right now. They don't require any special skills or tech knowledge or anything like that. It's just understanding the process of what makes people buy stuff online and then using that to your advantage. So we'll talk about, how to build up an audience of people who are interested in your books. And then we'll talk about how best to utilize that to get the best results you can during launch week. Right, so I've settled on, well, a tree for the first shot. We'll see how we get on. Right, so part 1 of what you need to do before a launch is probably something that you'll think is, well, slightly obvious, but people forget about it all the time, and that is essentially having an audience before you launch. So the problem with a lot of authors' approach is they'll write the book, they'll upload it to Amazon and the other ebook stores, and then they'll sort of sit back and hope for the best. And problem with that is if there's nobody around to actually read the work that you're putting out, then you're kind of performing to an empty theatre. There's nobody there to appreciate it. And it doesn't matter how much content you put out there. So you can't just whack books up there and hope that something's going to happen, because you can keep doing that for years. And I know authors who have dozens and dozens of books who still aren't getting the traction that they want. But there are things that you can do to kind of sidestep those people who are just focusing on advertising, and that's by building an audience outside Amazon who are interested in your books, and you then tell them about your books when they're ready to launch. Ooh, cold! So the basis of growing an email list in any genre, in any niche, is basically offer something that people want that's related to the products or the books that you will want to sell them later. So in terms of fiction, one thing I recommend for everyone getting started is using something called reader magnets. And basically this means that on Amazon, you have 1 or more permanently free books. Doesn't have to be a full novel. Could be a short story or a novella or similar. And then in the front and the back of that book, when people download it, you're offering them another book, either the next book in the series or a prequel or a spin-off. And to get that free book, they then have to enter their email address and sign up to your mailing list. And then not only are these people going to be likely to actually buy the next one that comes out, but they're going to be more likely to leave reviews as well. And the vast majority of the book buying public are going to go for the book with more reviews. So that's where we want to go next. Right, assuming I don't get eaten by horses, this could be a good place for the next part. Right, so reviews. Now, if you're growing an email list, and again, check the link underneath this video for a workshop where I'll show you exactly how to go about doing that. When you're building this list up, what you want to be doing is segmenting out the people who are kind of your super fans. So paying attention to those people who are opening, clicking your emails, reading your content, and then inviting them to be part of a launch team or a review team for your new books. And then when your book is ready to rock and it's a couple of weeks away from being published and being live, you can ask these people to leave you a review. And if you can get 5, 10, 20 positive reviews through on day one, this is going to significantly improve your sales during launch week. And when you get a good surge of sales through in that launch week, then you can get featured on Amazon's hot new releases list and you get bumped up the charts, and that organic algorithm really kicks in. So for anyone who's vaguely interested in filmmaking, the weather today is just ridiculous. Like, the sun is either full pelt and making everything completely washed out, or is completely dark. And just to add insult to injury, it's also windy. So we have to keep moving as the sun keeps peeking out from behind the clouds, and try and find somewhere else to get the next section done. So, next thing you need to do before the book even goes live is start thinking about how you're going to optimize your book page. So it doesn't matter whether we're talking about Amazon or Nook or Kobo, iBooks, wherever, people's decision to buy your book is going to be influenced by a few major things. And the first thing is, the reason they're going to even click your book to begin with, to even look at it, is going to be the cover. So your cover has to be a few things. It needs to be, of course, professionally designed, it needs to look good, but almost as important, if not as important, is that it's genre appropriate. So I see a lot of very artistically fantastic covers that are just tone deaf for the genre itself, and this doesn't help. And I've had personal experience with this too. So with my thriller series, we had covers that looked a little bit like this, and then we swapped them out for a cover that looks like this. And the second cover, in my opinion, is no better artistically than the first one, but it had over 50% higher click-through rate. So 50% more people were clicking on the book to check it out, which obviously means more sales. Yeah, the sun is being very inconsiderate today. Every time I stay in a spot for more than about 30 seconds, the sun changes position, and everything just goes horribly overexposed. So we're going to try and find somewhere with a bit of shade and see what we can do.
Yeah, not sure I want to try going in there.
Right, book descriptions then. So what you really don't want to do is just summarize the plot points, because that's not interesting. People aren't interested in the story itself so much as the emotional connection that they're going to get with your characters and the events that these characters have to live through. So that basically means that you have to split your description into just a few key elements. The first element is, who is the protagonist, the hero or the heroine? What is it the protagonist wants? Who is the antagonist or the villain or the opposition? And what do they want? And how is that in direct opposition to what the protagonist wants? That creates your conflict, and conflict is what drives the narrative forward in an interesting way. It makes people actually want to read it. And where we get the emotional connection is with stakes. So the conflict exists. What are the stakes if the hero or the heroine doesn't succeed against the villain or the opposition? So if you can sum up those few points in a couple of paragraphs, that generally gives you a much more interesting description. So we experimented with this as well. We took our old description on one of my thriller books, and we swapped it out for a new one that really narrowed down on this principle of, looking at the conflict and the stakes and what's exciting about the story instead of just the plot points. And we saw the conversion rate significantly jump. So whether you're running ads or you're getting organic traffic or from email lists, people do actually need to buy the book. So it's not enough just to get them to click through to it with a good cover and a good title. You want them to actually buy it, and that's where the description really comes in. And there is one more thing that you can optimize on your book description, and thankfully this is probably the easiest one.
Probably shouldn't go in there.
So the next thing to look at is the look inside. So on Amazon and all the other ebook stores, when your book's up there, whether it's on pre-order and you've got the manuscript uploaded or it's live and ready to buy, customers can click on the cover and they can read usually the first 10%. Now this is an opportunity not to mess up. So that really is the last thing to worry about. You know, once you've got the cover nailed, the description nailed, an interesting title, you've priced it in line with other books in your genre, the look inside is like that final hurdle. So someone who is considering buying your book is usually going to check that out, and that's the point where you want to confirm what they already believe. So if they've got to that point, they believe your book is a good book, they believe they're going to be interested in it, they're about to buy, but they just want to make sure, and that's the point where you don't want to lose them. So just make sure that everything's formatted properly, there's no silly formatting or spelling errors, and that everything looks professional and ready to go. Right, moving on. Right, next point you want to think about is whether or not you want to do pre-orders. And I'm not going to labor this point too much. So I have a whole video all about pre-orders and whether or not you want to do them and how to do them. And I'll link that in the description and at the end as well. But short summary, if you want to kind of get everything ready ahead of time and launch on a specific day at a specific time, pre-orders can be very useful. So there's definitely an opportunity to avoid stress there. So just decide if you want to do the pre-orders or not. Check out my video where I go through the whole thing in more detail. But it's not going to make or break it, but it could make your life easier. Really shouldn't have worn these shoes. We've talked about building an email list. We've talked about creating a launch team from that email list. We've talked about optimizing your ebook page so more people will click through to it and buy. Talked a little bit about pre-orders, and now it's the fifth and final thing that you need to nail down before you actually launch, and that's your launch campaign. And this is going to be an email campaign that you send out to those list of people that you've been growing, that's going to build buzz and anticipation ahead of your launch and get people to buy so that you get the maximum sales during launch week. And to do this, we split that launch up into 3 phases. Now the first phase is the pre-launch phase, and during this phase, which could be 2, 3, 4, 6 weeks long, doesn't really matter, but during this phase you want to allow enough time to build anticipation and excitement about your upcoming book. So you want to have a cover reveal, a title reveal, sample chapters, snippets, character background, interesting emails that you send out about the writing process, really just anything that your audience is going to enjoy ahead of the book launch to make them look forward to it. Now usually this would be 2 or 3 emails leading up to launch day that just explains what the book's about, why people are going to love it, and gives those interesting tidbits about why it's so exciting. And if you really want to maximize sales as well, it's also worth considering adding in a launch bonus. Thanks, Wind. Now, a launch bonus could be something very, very simple, or it could be complicated, it could be high value, it could be really anything that you want, as long as it's related to your book. So a really common one is to give away a short story, or you can even give away another author's book if you get permission for them. So if you want to do like a cross promotion with another author in your genre, you could say to your audience, you know, my book's coming out in 2 weeks, and if you buy during the first 5 days, which is when you really want to get that sales record through for that organic punch. So if you buy in the first 5 days, I'll also send you X author's book for free as a gift. And that's quite easy to deliver, because all you need to do is put a link in the back of your book. When people buy it, they'll see that bonus link and they can go get their bonus. So during the pre-launch phase, you're getting people excited about your book and why it's going to be so awesome, but also letting them know about those bonuses, because you really want them to buy the book during the first 5 days to get those maximum results for you. And the problem with books and a lot of online products is procrastination. So people will see a book that they know that they want, they're interested in, they want to buy it, but they decide they're going to do it later, which generally means they forget and it doesn't happen. So if you give them a bonus and you set a deadline on when they can get that bonus, so within the first 5 days, that really compels people to actually go buy your book now instead of procrastinating and then never doing it. So that pre-launch phase is setting up everything that's going to happen during launch week, which is where we move into the launch phase. So everything that happens during that first week of launch on Amazon and the other ebook stores. And by this point, all the hard work is done, because you've set the context, you've told people what's going to happen, you've got them excited about your book, and during the launch phase, all you need to do is tell them to go buy it, give them a link, and just remind them about the bonuses and the deadline. And then once your launch is finished, you can run an optional post-launch campaign as well, which in a lot of cases is really just sending out emails asking people, you know, what did you like about this launch campaign. What didn't you like? What did you enjoy about my book? Would you consider leaving a review? Would you fill in a questionnaire and tell me what you're interested in? It could be anything really, but it's just acknowledging that something cool has happened and there's going to be more good stuff coming up, and that you're actually interested in hearing from your audience about what they want. And again, everything we're talking about today is all covered in the free workshop, which I'm going to link underneath this video. So click on that, enter your details, and I'll send you a link where you can sign up for an on-demand workshop. It's completely free. You can watch it at your convenience, and we'll go through everything in a ton more detail for you. So that's everything you need to do ahead of the launch, but there are a couple of things you can do after the launch as well to help ensure lasting success. And we'll talk about that in the next video. So if you want to get that video, make sure you click the subscribe button underneath this one, hit the notification bell, and I'll make sure that you get those videos delivered straight to you as soon as they're ready. So that's it in a nutshell, really. So really what you want to avoid doing is just uploading your book, sitting back and hoping for the best. You can run these 5 things ahead of launch, then you're going to get significantly better results. And in fact, with the email campaigns that we just talked about, having that pre-launch and launch phase, that has more than doubled sales during launch week for us and for a lot of people who have implemented that advice too. And it's something that you can do quite easily. I mean, we're talking about maybe 2 emails ahead of launch, 2 emails during launch. You know, that's something that anybody can do. And as long as you're hitting those major points of building anticipation, announcing those bonuses and those deadlines, that can make a huge difference. And of course, the first part of all of this is building that email list to begin with. So building beautiful architecture. Yeah, building that email list to begin with. So getting those people who are interested in your work onto an email list so that you can tell them about your future books. And that's where a lot of people fall down. So again, linked in the resources just underneath this video, I've got an on-demand workshop for you. It covers absolutely everything we've talked about today in a ton more detail. And then in the next video, we're going to talk about what you can do after you've launched to help keep those sales going. So long-term strategies to keep those numbers and those sales high. So make sure you hit that subscribe button and I'll make sure you get those videos. But in the meantime, that's it from me, and I will see you all again very, very soon. I wonder if she'll let me drive it. Better not.